Fine says that Alexander I invented peasantry, and this is about the next. Heteri are geteri, that is, the noble cavalry by members of the first two classes. Alexander I introduced getter infantry, which Greeks write as peseters, into Macedonian army. In infantry, although it was called geti, the third class was included. In the case of the name of the city of Byblos in Phoenicia, which the Syrians referred to as Gubli, the letter gamma was replaced with the letter buka. It is also interesting that the Emperor Philip V signed on a gift to the temple of Athena Lindia in Delos with Dardanian himself. Diodorus says for Dorians of Dorida that they were part of Laconians and had three cities, Kition, Boyon or Voyon, and Erineon, which is at the foot of Parnassus. Regarding Serbian traces in the British Isles, Waddell mentions the name of Lake Van in Wales, as well as that old British capital in Wales, which was called Venta Silorum by the Romans. The same writer gives an accurate explanation of meaning of tsar, sire equals fort. Kar and kaer are different. Var and Waddell correctly translate that from a fortress or fortification. For the British Picts, he says that they call themselves Haldi or Halti, and they are of Gaul origin. Since the Gauls are considered to be of Rhodanian origin, this means that the Getic name was also present in Rhodania. Herodotus' Celts are located on Iberian Peninsula. This proves that the Getic name was present throughout Western Europe. Campbell mentions the Indoskythians or Hittites between the 4th and 10th centuries AD, and says that the Hindus called them Sabaras, Sauviras, the Sibiras in Buddhist writings. The same writer says, Sargon, when Hussais puts in 19th century BC, was Het on his father's side. On the time of Patriarch Jacob, the Hittites held the kingdom in Chaldea and neighboring Elam. Both names, Geti and Heti, are present in India. The latter is the form of Katei. Cunningham cites Justin, who unites a people called Gestaeni with Aresta or Katei, which should be the same with Malians or Oxidars. The Gestians are the Goths, and they prove themselves to be the same people as Kati or Hatti. In Northern Europe, Tacit mentions the Huts in a valley of the rivers Weser and Geton on the east bank of Lower Vistula. Rhodania, France. We came to the last son of Jovan in order and the last land of the people of Japhet, Rhodania. In the name of this country in Hebrew is Rhodanim, as stated in the first book of Chronicles in the Old Testament and in translation 72. Some have read this name as Dodanim instead of Rhodanim, as it is written in Izorod, and this error stems from the great similarity of the letters Rho and Delta in Hebrew alphabet, between which the difference is hardly noticeable, and if they were not written with great care, the difference is not noticed. Isaac Vossius says, the names Rhodanim and Dodanim became controversial because of the letters Resh and Delet are very similar among the Jews and replaced them. Beda also speaks about this and says, it was added to Rhodanim, and the confusion aroused due to similarity of the Hebrew letters Dalet and Resh. The misreading of the name Dodanim led to misinterpretations and feudal surgeons for that country. Bohardius made comparisons and research of that name in Hebrew and Chaldean languages, and his finding coincides with translation 72, that is, that the correct name of that country is Rhodanim, and that it is a country that was later known as Gaul. He says that the name Dodanim in Chaldean language refers to Dardanians. Considering this country of Rhodania was mentioned as the last in Europe in Izorod, and considering that the country goes to Pelag, there is not the slightest doubt left regarding the determination of the place of that country. The decision that Rhodania is later Gaul is self-evident, since it was the only country in Europe that did not fit into general schedule. It is the area between Iberia in the west, Tarshish and Jovan in the east, and Teiras in the north. The real and oldest known name of this country is Rhodania, called Gaul since Roman times, and later Frushka, France. The Greeks, consistent with themselves, wrote that Rhodanium was the land of Rhodos, not worrying that it is small and insignificant, and that Old Testament does not mention islands that are 20 times larger than Rhodos. To make the answer to this question even more complete, Stephan of Byzantium states that the name of the island of Rhodos is of more recent date, and that its old name was Ophiusa. The same information is found in Eusebius. Bohardius says, "The land of Rhodania and the people of Rhodani are not located on the island of Rhodos, but in Gaul, in a valley of the river Rodana. The river Rodana, or Rodania, or Rodna in the modern river Rona, it is difficult to say whether the river Rodania was named after the country or the same name, or the country after the river. Judging by other examples, the country should be named after the river. There was also a town called Roda, Rodak, or Rodan at the mouth of the river Rodania. In Stephan, the city is mentioned as Rodanusia. In various countries inhabited by the people of Serbian race, there are cities with similar names. Rodi in Iberia, 3 Rodans in Italy, Rodia, Rodan and Rodium in Rodania, Rodia in Lika in Asia Minor, Rodo and Rogana in India, Rodusha in Serbia, and finally island of Rhodos or Rhodia. Greek writers mentioned a large river called the Eridanos, which modern historians think is Vistula. One small river, a tributary of the Vistula near its mouth, is referred to as Rhodauna. Herodotus says that Eridanos is a Greek name. It is true that Serbian name Rodana was changed by the Greeks to Eridanos. Pausanias considered Eridanos to be Celtic river and is thought to be Rhodanus. Diodorus says that the river Po, modern Po, was also called Eridan in Italy. During the attack of Teuton in Ambronum 102 BC, the Roman general Marius captured the Teutonic leader Teutamodus and then reached the Eridanus river and defeated the Cimbri. The river Rodana in Rodania was called Eridan. Marius defeated Cimbri on the lower reaches of Rodana. Eusebius says that Rhodos was held the thalassocracy on Pelag for 23 years. Some think that this refers to an island Rhodes, but it's not possible. It's about the Rodans from Rodania who had numerous coastal towns and ports. One of those coastal towns was called Rodan in the mouth of river Rodana. The first arrival of the tribe of Serbian race in Rodania was during Nino's campaign around 2000 BC, when a movement from the Danube and Central Europe was at the same time in the direction of the west. Markel says, "Western Europe is occupied around 2000 BC from the race to which the Cimbrians and Teutons belonged, and which finds its mystical meaning in the name of Celts. This movement toward the west was most succinctly presented by Gabriel Lera when he says, "The Helm people have actually descended to Thessaly about 2500 BC. The Thracians built another Trojan city. They were undoubtedly the forerunner of the great movement. Instead of gradually entering the south around 2000 BC, the invasion was wide and ruthless. The eastern torrent crossed Thrace, Phrygia, destroyed another Trojan city. At the same time, the western torrent of Indo-Europeans fell on today's Germany, Gaul, England, and from Central Europe to Italy, when a large part of the people came down from Helm to Greece and Epirus. Gordon Childe and many other historians who have studied Aryan expansion in Western Europe have written about the movement of Aryans from the Danube to the west.